This time I'd like to turn the podium over to our Vice President of Programs, Mr. Jerry Mungai. He's one that gets the speakers, and it's an honor to introduce the caliber of speakers that we get. And so I'm going to turn that honor over to our VP of Programs that did groundwork to get it here. So.
Thank you. Well, tonight's speaker really doesn't require any introduction. Ward Connerly has done more to promote equality under the law than just about anyone else. He has won numerous accolades, the list is endless, and awards for his courage and accomplishments in exposing how affirmative action policy, allegedly designed to offer greater education or job opportunities for minorities, actually harm them with unintended consequences. He gained national attention, as you may recall, some of us gray-haired people, as a member of the University of California's Board of Regents, when he got them to agree to eliminate race as a criterion for admission to the university's various campuses that are known worldwide for their tolerance and free speech ideas. Yeah, right. After that victory, he successfully convinced Californians in 1996 to amend the state constitution with Proposition 209 to eliminate consideration of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. That was quite an accomplishment. And then he followed up on those successes by helping pass similar measures in Washington State, Michigan, Nebraska, and Arizona. He's the founder and president of the American Civil Rights Institute, which is dedicated to achieving equal protection under the law for all of us. He's also the author of 2 books, Creating Equal, My Fight Against Race Preferences, and Lessons from My Uncle James. And he will be selling and autographing his books after the Q&A session tonight. And as Howard said, there'll be there's a sign-up sheet there that you can get information from the ACRI about their activities and programs. Oh, and by the way, he also has time to run a private business, Connerly and Associates, which is a Sacramento-based land development consulting firm. And lastly, he and I share a disdain for identifying Americans by their ethnicity like African American. We agree that you are either an American irrespective of origin or color, or you're not. Anyway, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ward Connerly.
Thank you very much. After that introduction, I'm tempted to ask, are there any questions? I hope that our enemies don't discover that we're all meeting here tonight, or they can wipe out the whole colony here. This is my encore to this group. I remember being here it's about 7 years ago, I believe, and was delighted to receive an award from you. Reminds me of the fellow who read an ad in the paper about a trip around the world, a cruise around the world. We were in a cruise National Review together, and I'm reminded of this fellow who read that ad for a cruise around the world for $99. So he goes into the travel agency and says, I want to take one of these cruises for $99. So he writes out the check, and the guy reaches behind the counter and takes out a baseball bat and pounds him over the head and ties him up and drags him out to the ship and says, bon voyage, but he throws him in the water instead of any ship. Says bon voyage. So another fellow reads the same ad, $99, cruise around the world. So he goes into the travel agency and says, I want to take one of these cruises, and writes out his check for $99, and the agent takes out the baseball bat, pounds him over the head, ties him up, throws him in the ocean. Soon these two fellers are floating along on their backs. One leans his head to the left and says, I wonder if they feed you on these cruises. The other one leans to the right and said, they didn't last year. I'm wanting to talk to you tonight about the question of whether our nation is in decline. And if so, how do we solve the problem? I think unquestionably our nation is in decline. We just sense it, and the evidence is abundant that the nation that we inherited, most of us in this room, is not the same as it was 50 years ago or 40 years ago or even 25 years ago. Just not the same. And that's not because it's better, it's just that things are slipping away, it seems. And I don't know about you, but I'm worried. I'm very, very worried about where the good old US of A is going. It seems that the downgrading of America's credit was a wake-up call to many. And that sort of brought to prominence the question that I'm talking about a little bit, whether we're in decline. Let me add parenthetically that a member of my staff is here, Lindsay Wilson. Thanks, Lindsay. But our decline is not attributable to our credit standing. Our government could stop spending, which I pray that it does, but it could stop spending tomorrow, balance the budget tomorrow. And I would still argue that we are a nation in decline. There are basically four basic ideals that serve to define who we are as a country. One is self-government. Another is the principle of equality. A third is private enterprise, our respect for private enterprise. And the fourth is our individual freedoms. Not necessarily in that order of importance. But those are the four ideals that glue the nation together. I want to talk about two of those. One is private enterprise. Being able to open a business and build a better life for yourself, your families, people that you hire. And over the last almost 3 years, we have seen a gradual deterioration among many elected people for private enterprise. I'll add another thing. I'm not here tonight to talk as a president of the American Civil Rights Institute, which is a C3 tax-exempt organization. And some of the things I want to say, candidly, could get me in trouble with the revenuers. I just want to talk as a private citizen. But for the last 3.5 years, and President Bush started this sort of with the bailout, we've seen a growing disrespect for private enterprise. President Obama has shown utter contempt for the private sector, utter contempt for it. as he talks about the fat cats and the millionaires and billionaires and a host of other things that he has said, he shows no regard for the private sector. They are the enemy, which should not be surprising to us, because if you look at from whence he cometh, community organizer. Community organizers, by and large, identify with the poor. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to help the poor, not at all. But that profession, if you will, divides Americans into two groups: the seemingly disenfranchised and the establishment. And I have never met a community organizer who didn't want to shake things up in favor of the disenfranchised. As you look at this movement, Occupy Wall Street, and its tentacles into various communities, and the fact that President Obama instantly identified with that group. As you look at the fact that when President Obama didn't have to deal with, but when he did deal with the issue of his friend Henry Louis Gates in Cambridge, and the fact that the police came to his house when someone had complained that they thought someone was trying to break in, and President Obama weighed in on that issue without invitation. He weighed in. What was the first thing he said? Acted stupidly. Community organizers and those from that area have a hostility toward the police, toward law enforcement. Law enforcement is the enemy. They accuse law enforcement of police brutality without evidence. They accuse them of racial profiling, often without evidence. So Occupy Wall Street and Oakland and other places ought to frighten us all, because it demonstrates an organized movement to attack private enterprise. You often hear about the question of what do they want? They want to bring the system down. They want to bring the system down. And there is no place in the nation that probably has a better understanding of what private enterprise means to the success of America than the Silicon Valley. You wouldn't be here as a valley without a vibrant private enterprise system. Apple and all of the other enterprises that grew out of this valley are a tribute to our respect for private enterprise. That system, based on private enterprise, is under attack in ways that we never could have imagined. When President Obama challenges it and talks about it, I cannot believe that he is so dim-witted, that he doesn't recognize the importance of that ideal to the success of the nation. You cannot look at America's success and not trace it to American ingenuity, to America's respect for people who are willing to go out and invest their capital, take chances, fail sometimes, but take chances with their own money to make this country a better place. It's not that the Republicans want to turn over the keys, as he often says, to millionaires and billionaires. It's just that we recognize, those of us who are Republican or Libertarian, we recognize that it's the private sector that makes this train run. I don't know what planet you have to live on not to be aware of that. The second thing that I want to talk about is the principle of equality, something that I've devoted the better part of my later years, and I'm in the third trimester of my life. But I've devoted the better part of my latter years to the question of getting it right about the principle of equal treatment under the law for everybody. Again, those are the traits that define who we are as a people. And as you think about the possibility of a man whose roots are black and white and a Democrat, a very far left Democrat, competing with another man who is black and a Republican and a conservative for the chief executive office of this country, if that doesn't begin to hit you and you recognize what this country represents and how good we are and how we have matured as a people, make some bad decisions along the way as we did in 2008. But it's to our greatness as a people that that circumstance could occur. Think about that. So, the whole principle of equality, I believe, flowers private enterprise. Because with those two things melded together, the fact that no matter where you come from, no matter how you spell your last name, no matter your gender, if you want to get ahead in America, the conditions are right for you to do so. And both of those things are under severe attack. The principle of equality is violated, I believe, by virtually every public agency in America under the guise of pursuing diversity. Even here in California, where we have voted strongly to outlaw race preferences, I would not be so naive as to recognize that they are practiced at the University of California. Old Blue, they're practiced there. And we're going to try to do something about that in the months ahead. But the pursuit of diversity is the antithesis of equal treatment for every person, every individual. It's the antithesis of that. The equal treatment premise presumes that each of us is an individual and that we're entitled to be treated equally, quote, without regard to race. Without regard to race. Not because of race, but without regard to race. That is the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that everyone will be entitled to equal treatment under the law without regard to race. It's the 14th Amendment. And yet that principle is violated by, I think, virtually every agency in America. In the college setting, if you're Chinese or Vietnamese or Japanese, you have to get a much higher grade point average and SAT score than someone who is black or Latino. That's a reality. It's a reality. And it does not seem to dawn on anybody in elective office at the higher level that that's discrimination. They don't seem to care. Last year, President Obama signed the Dodd-Frank Act to put in place a system of financial regulation regulatory reform. One would not expect that a major overhaul of our financial regulatory system would include race preferences. President Obama certainly didn't go to the nation to talk about that. I mean, he's not hesitant to bore us ad nauseum with his speeches about all of the things that he wants to do. But you didn't hear about this one, I'll bet you, because he doesn't want the American people to know how deeply embedded his administration is in the issue of race. It's not a post-racial administration. It is a most racial administration. In Section 342 of the Dodd-Frank bill, that provision creates an Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. Let me repeat it. An Office of Women and Minority Inclusion in every federal regulatory agency that there is, some 55 or 56 agencies. That office has the responsibility to review every contract entered into by a bank, by a mortgage broker, by someone else engaged in financial transactions. And if there is not enough diversity in that office or whomever is responsible, the contract can be terminated by the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. I call it the White Male Exclusion Act, because that's really what it is. So those two things taken together suggest to me that the basic pillars of this house that we've constructed over the years called America is standing on the quicksand of those pillars which are crumbling. And what are we supposed to do about this? Well, there are about 5 to 7 things I would do. The first 3 are to give an eviction notice to the current occupants of 1,600 Pennsylvania Avenue. One cannot appreciate the damage that has been done to America by this administration. You just can't begin to fathom how much damage has been done. The latest is the arrogant comment that we can't wait for the Congress to do their job, so I'm going to do it for them with a stroke of the pen. Who the hell elected him as king? I don't remember voting for him to be the Congress and the President. I mean, think about that. Think about that. Since they haven't acted, even though they may have sent bills to the other house, but since they haven't acted, I'm going to take it upon myself, and I'll do these things for them. That's a constitutional crisis, folks, and I'm just shocked that the Congress almost looks the other way. It's a blight on the Congress that they are ill-prepared and unwilling to take that on. It is a constitutional crisis for that to happen. So I think that we're going to have to, as Americans, grab the pitchforks and charge the hill ourselves. Most Americans, I believe, once they're confronted, frankly, with what's at stake, I believe they will agree with us. We are a center-right nation. I'm absolutely convinced of it. When Lindsay and I and others have gone to different states trying to urge them to get rid of race preferences. In Arizona, in California, in the state of Washington, in the state of Nebraska, in the state of Florida, in the state of Michigan. In every case, there's only been one where we've lost. That's Colorado. And we were steamrolled by the Obama machine in 2008. But in every instance, I find that there resides within the collective spirit of the people of those states an understanding of those four principles I talked about. People get it. They understand. And if we present the issues to them in a very straightforward and objective way, they will vote for us. Even in California, which I'm very concerned about where our state is going, I don't want to believe that all is lost in this state. I love it too much. But even in California, people are willing to pull the lever in favor of the initiatives that we bring to them if they're straightforward. But if we do not assert the importance of those four principles, I think that 10 years from now, we won't recognize the nation. We don't recognize, many of us, we don't recognize California as it is. We have more tax receivers than we do have taxpayers. We have more people for whom the rule of law means absolutely nothing. The California Dream Act. It's an acknowledgement that the rule of law is secondary to whatever they want to achieve.